I believe we had a quorum, right?
Yeah, there we have Luke, and then we have Jim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We don't have Meryl yet.
And I think Susan too.
And Susan, who said she would be here.
Mm-hmm.
What time is it though? Just 4:58.
A few minutes.
We just have this one thing to look at, and I just, because we have the circumstance now of having to issue the building permits so rapidly.
Yeah.
The question on this application is very straightforward, and this will be a 5-minute meeting if we just look at it and try to understand that the light cuts match that which exists.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Luke.
Hey.
Hey, Luke.
Hello.
Here's Susan. Here's Meryl.
Hi guys.
How are you? I had some trouble logging in and I had a moment of panic, but I kept a cool head about me and I did
You're here.
it.
Oh,
Hey,
Here I
Meryl.
am. Sorry
Hi,
about that.
Hi, Meryl.
Hi. Thank you all for being here. Is Jake Roberts presenting?
I don't know who Jake Roberts is.
Oh, I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes,
How are you, Jake?
Good afternoon. How are you?
good. Which property are you here about?
Kathleen Matthews.
Oh, okay, good. That's the
Great.
one we're talking about.
Oh,
We're so
excellent. Okay.
glad.
So why don't we get
Great to-
started?
Okay. Jake, can you show us your face?
I'm not quite sure why the video didn't pick up, but I'm still on the road. I was planning on pulling over in about 1 minute, and I can absolutely do that. I'm just pulling off here.
Yeah, it would be great if you could see the screen sharing. Gordon's going to be screen sharing the proposal.
Okay, excellent. Yep. I will pull
Jake,
off.
while you're pulling off, this is Susan. Can you just tell me what your role is? I mean, you're representing the owner. Are you a builder or I don't know?
Absolutely. I work for Renewal by Anderson.
Okay,
And yeah, we're going to be replacing some windows at Kathleen Matthews' house.
great. Thank you.
And I'm going to pull off right now.
Great. I met Kathleen Matthews the other
There
day.
you are.
Here you are. Hello.
Nice to see you.
How was
You sound like you're underwater, Jake.
Oh dear, we
Nice
don't
to
have a
see
good
you all.
connection. Nice to see you too.
You're gone.
Oh,
Okay.
bear with me. Is that better?
You're frozen, but we see you. Nice smile. That froze you at a good moment.
That's a rare occurrence.
I'm kidding.
All right. This is coming a little clear and can you hear me good?
Up and down. It
Pretty
does
well.
sound like you're speaking very slowly, but let's try.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen.
Okay, great.
Why isn't this opening up? There it is. Okay. So this application is to replace windows.
Correct.
That's
Just windows.
So can I just ask you in general, before you even begin to describe your proposal, is the light cut configuration of the new windows consistent with that which exists today and which is historically appropriate? For example, 9/6, where there's a 9/6.
So where you see a cottage style double hung, which is in the front of the home, we are going to replace every window that we're replacing is going to be replaced like for like. White,
Okay.
white where there's white, where you have a 9/6, we're replacing 9/6. The double hungs over there on the side.
Mhm.
Up top will be, I think, windows are 6/6, if I remember correctly.
Those look like they're 6/6.
And then the
Here, and
closet-
here it looks like you have 9/6. And I guess
Correct.
my fundamental question is the light cut configuration of the new windows is going to match that which exists.
Yeah, even the grill pattern will be full divided light. It's not going to be like a thin grill between the glass, which because existing now full divided light, obviously is where the grill pattern is exposed on the outside of the glass and on the inside of the glass. So we will keep everything exactly like for like.
You're fading a little bit, but just very quickly. So we have insulated glass and you have glue-on grills front and back
Correct. They will be fully applied. Yep.
and a spacer bar between them.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right, great.
Yep.
And
Does
it looks like
anybody have
it's,
any questions?
What's
and
the
it looks
materiality
like
of the
it-
windows?
Yep.
Sorry.
So no worries. Our windows are made, Renewal by Anderson carries the Fibrex window. It's composite. So it's 40% wood, 60% polymers. They're hurricane rated and they hold up great, obviously, in our elements. But even the structure of the frame sits in mortise and tenon joint. So from the the look of it, it looks like wood, but you never have to maintain it. It doesn't warp, rot, or peel.
so,
And then and on the exterior casing around the windows, where we need to, we will use an AZAC bright white trim to match up the house with the colonial sill nose and everything else.
so it, from the specs, it says white screen fiberglass. Does that mean that the outside of the windows are fiberglass or just the screen?
Just the screen. Yep, they'll all have full screens, and just the actual rim, the aluminum, I guess, or the border of the screen will be white as well.
And so what is the outside of the window made of? Is that the composite material you were referring to?
It is. Yep.
Okay. And then it's wood
Yep,
on
and-
the inside, or it's the wood composite on the inside?
It's the composite on the interior as well.
Okay.
Yeah,
So-
it's different from like a vinyl window where, you got to have a lot of thick vinyl to hold the glass. This will be, because it's twice as strong, it's a thinner profile as far as the frame goes. But with those older wood windows, it matches up almost exactly the same.
So can I ask, like, just an ignorant, not knowing anything about building materials or anything? Person?
Sure.
So when you talk about a wood and vinyl, composite and wood mixture, is that like actually material that's been created to be a combination of wood and vinyl, or is it meaning that there's portions of it that'll be wood and portions that will be vinyl?
Oh, that's a great question, Susan. And so if you think of window frames, there are really only 5 materials that make up a window. You've got a vinyl window, you've got all wood, you've got an aluminum clad, and you have a vinyl clad. Fibrex is proprietary to Renewal by Anderson. Anderson started testing it in 1971, and they tested it for 24 years before they trusted the strength of it. So back in 1995, when they came out with that new frame, they said, we're not going to mass produce this. We're not going to sell it in the Home Depots or anywhere else. It's going to be strictly replacement, and it's only going to be installed by Renewal by Anderson trained and licensed installers. So we're basically the full service replacement division of Anderson, where Anderson's been making windows since 1902.
I think what Susan is asking is, are the individual components of the windows, some are vinyl and some are wood?
Oh, no.
Or is
no,
there a
that-
material that is fabricated of an alloy?
Correct.
That's the
So
two materials together.
Yep, Fibrex is a true composite. So it's proprietary to Renewal by Anderson. So it is a solid material throughout the whole frame.
Great,
Okay, thanks.
thank you,
Yep.
that cleared it up.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
And I have a quick question. You had mentioned offhand that you're replacing trim.
The windows that we have to go full frame on, will you go can you go back to the spec sheet for me that you had? All right, oh, nope,
That's
right
it.
there. Yep, all right, nope,
back
the
again.
next one over. There
That
you
one.
go. All right, so I'm just looking to see. All right, no, so actually in all of these windows, we're able to insert into the existing opening. And I remember it was a couple months ago that I was out there with Kathy, but she has nice historic trim all on the interior. And the nice thing about our company, we custom make every window. So we can, as long as there's no rot, we can custom make the window fit the home, where we insert into the existing opening. So we're not actually touching any of the trim. That's why I was looking where under the miscellaneous, some of them where there was a rotted sill nose, we were just replaced the actual nose underneath the window.
So the existing frame stays in place and you put this new window within the existing frame.
Correct. We've developed a 14-degree slope sill insert, so it sits perfectly on a natural slope of a window.
Right. And so as opposed to being what we would think of, like if we do work in a brownstone in New York City, it's not a brick to brick installation, it's a frame to frame installation.
Correct.
But it's a replacement window, not a new construction window. So it sits inside of the original window frame, and the amount of glass is decreased.
Right. And there's an extra sort of line in there.
Yeah, and it's not a full new window.
Mhm.
Yeah, full frame is if you go back to the studs and you're replacing interior exterior
Mhm.
trim, which oftentimes we have to do that if it's rot or if they were nail flange.
So Jake, so this system works pretty well, Jake, and getting back
But when
to
there's a
the,
nice pocket and there's no rot, we can insert into that opening.
so Jake, this system works pretty well, and getting back to the question that Tim had asked earlier, does the existing trim stay intact on the outside of the house?
It does, yes.
Okay, good.
But it does look like the sills are going to be AZAC on most of these, from what I'm reading.
So
back.
if there's the sill nose, that piece, the little piece of nose underneath the window that sticks out a couple inches,
Yeah,
we'll cut that off and replace it with the exact same size white AZAC. Yeah, and the reason that is if they're rotted, we don't have to go all the way back to the studs. We can just replace that, just the sill nose.
So basically, just to clarify, the existing frame stays, you're inserting the new windows into it, and where there's rotting on the sills, you'll replace it with AZAC.
Correct. Sill nose. Yep.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
on the sill nose, okay.
And just for my own thing, on this, sorry, Mike. On your order, I'm just seeing, what does R&R shutters mean, in or out?
No, that just means she needs to replace her shutters. We're not doing any.
Jake, we can't hear you.
No, you can't hear.
Like
Yeah,
she'll
you're-
put the same ones back up. So
Can
we
you
do
say
not.
that again, because we missed what you said?
Yep, we do not replace the shutters. It's the customer's responsibility to replace if she wants to replace the shutters. R&R just means we'll take them off and put them back up. Generally,
okay.
or customer's responsibility.
Remove and replace.
Yeah, yep. Just to get them off the walls while we're inserting the windows.
And there'll be no more storm windows, right? Because this window covers it all.
Exactly, yep, they're dual pane.
Does anybody else have any comments?
Well, I wonder about, for those of you who are architects and builders, what your experience is with this version of Windows, the Anderson renewal.
I don't have any personal experience with Anderson renewal. However, I have a lot of experience replacing windows within existing frames, primarily in New York City townhouses. It's generally accepted by New York City Landmarks Preservation because it maintains the integrity of the original exterior trim. And although it adds a new interior line and the glass size becomes slightly smaller, the overall kind of tilt of the whole thing is that it's positive in terms of preservation because you're not, ripping more apart and losing that original detail.
Thanks, Gordon.
I've
Anything you
taken-
want to add, Luke?
I've taken more of them out, and been involved with projects where they're going in. It depends on the scenario and the application. Lots of them are, depending on a bead of caulk to keep the weather out. They're kind of forced into an existing frame. Sometimes the installers will leave a window frame that's in need of repair or replacement in place just to rot further. And the sashes are actually inferior to a standard Anderson window for new construction. Most of the time we're pulling them out because they're junk. And the last time replacement windows came in front of us, we sent her looking for alternatives. So I think you should keep that in mind also.
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on that. In our guidelines that we put out, we would always prefer a wood window. And also, I always have concerns of, and maybe Luke can speak to this better than I can, of when you replace something that even if it has wood in it, it's still a vinyl composite. When it meets up with a wood frame, that interaction often leads to moisture issues. And I'm worried that in this instance, maybe that this solution might be, and this is in the owner's interest, might be detrimental because if it's a temporary solution, it might be cheap now, but might need to be replaced sooner down the line than doing it properly in the first place.
Luke, can you refer? Luke, can you
guys,
just
can I just say one thing?
wait?
To Luke. Luke, have you replaced a lot of Renewal by Anderson Fibrex replacement windows?
I've replaced a number of them, mainly because the installation was had problems with leakage, and water was getting into the wall and into the original sill. But
The reason why I ask is our windows have a double lifetime labor warranty, and generally speaking, we're not the cheap solution. We're usually the most frame or insert. Sometimes if there's no rut, people just want it full frame. They want new trim, new interior, exterior trim. But generally it's about $700-800 more an opening for us to go full frame. So where we've designed a 14-degree slope sill insert, most people take that option to save money on the labor and the materials. But just like I said, normally speaking, we haven't had many issues with our replacement windows.
yeah, I think it's more.
2 years I've been on the Cape. I'm born.
I think it's more a matter of the flashing job that's in place, or the keeping a frame that's already been compromised in place to make the sale. And
well, no, because we have a measure twice, cut once. When I go out first, I'm kind of the project consultant, and then my install manager comes out after. And if I sell an insert window and there's any bit of rot where we can't do it, I get a measure summary. And I have to call the customer and say, hey, I can't insert into those openings. We have to go full frame because of this or that. And that's always a tough call because I got to ask for a lot more money. But we always, an install manager, because, we aren't a jack of all trades. All that we do are replace windows. We don't do roofs. We don't do kitchens. We don't do anything like that. The installers who work for us are licensed, trained Anderson installers out of Smithfield, Rhode Island is where our headquarters is. One there and one Cromwell, Connecticut. But from Woods Hole to Sandwich to Provincetown, we install in historic areas.
no, I understand.
Luke, why did in a previous submission, why did the commission send this person back? I was not a part of that meeting and I don't know what happened.
I can't recall who was on board, but it was the house on Holbrook Ave. I don't know the address off the top of my head, but I don't know if,
That was a full vinyl window, that one. Remember, it
because it
didn't.
was a vinyl window replacement.
Oh, that one, I was here for that right now. That was a full vinyl window. That's not this. This
Well,
is-
it's still a replacement window. It's not a new construction window. It's not a, it's
Right,
essentially a sash that's glued into place with
right.
silicone.
It's replacing just the sash.
Right.
What it is.
If you, and you know,
we're ours is in a whole frame that's not just pulling the sashes out and putting in new sashes. The whole interior of the sill will be the Fibrex material. It's actually in a frame. We can insert, and again, the side jams can't have any rot because you can't screw it, into a side jam, and the side jams go up the side of the window. And for us to, when we give a double lifetime labor, we will not screw a window into a rotted frame, but it's a whole frame unit. The tracking, the side jams, everything gets installed into the existing opening that way. That slope sill is a perfect 14 degree, which is designed for these style windows.
And it's a solid material. It's not like a vinyl thing with a vacant.
It's rated at 140 mile per hour winds, can take 8 inches of rain an hour. It does not expand until 180 degrees, and it does not contract until -20, whereas vinyl expands at 65 degrees and contracts at 35 degrees.
And it's not a hollow core vinyl. It's not a hollow core vinyl frame. It's a solid frame.
It's made up of 40% wood. It's generally what we do is we recycle wood shavings from when Anderson Corporation, new construction Anderson, makes their windows. We recycle the wood shavings, and that's what we use to make 40% wood, 60% polymers to make that Fibrex material.
Mm-hmm.
So can I just ask a question? How much more expensive is it, like ballpark, to put in a wood window compared to a composite window like this? Is it more expensive?
The cost of wood right now is very expensive, but we don't carry any other window than the Fibrex window. Anderson created the first ever vinyl window in 1959, and they never sold it. They sold the patent. Anderson offers an aluminum clad 400 series, vinyl clad 200 series, and an A series. But generally speaking, I wouldn't know. I don't carry with Renewal by Anderson. All that we offer is the Fibrex window replacement. We don't carry the 400 series, and my installers don't install 400 series or A series windows. Monday through Saturday, they install the Fibrex windows. So I couldn't tell you, but generally speaking, wood is right now, I would imagine, probably depending on what species. I mean, if you went with a mahogany window, I can imagine that would be very expensive as opposed to like a pine window.
Right.
The wood species will make a difference.
Yeah, no, I get it. Luke, what is your experience like? Just ballparking.
as far as price difference,
Yeah, is it significant?
I don't have a price difference on a complete install. We don't do replacement windows, just as a, rule of thumb, but.
Right,
Can
I was
I
just
ask-
curious. I just
Really
didn't
well.
know.
Maybe I could-
Listen, as a commission, what we would prefer is to see this whole window come out, the trim saved and preserved, a new window installed, and the trim reinstalled, right? That would be the ideal situation.
Yeah.
But that's not the proposal that's before us, and that is more costly than the proposal that's before us.
Right.
I'm not, I think that keeping historic trim, having the ability to keep the trim inside and outside is probably a bonus. I just, it would be nice to know that every window was installed to keep the water out and have a, success down the road, and not installed with rot around it.
Right.
And I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just raising the point.
I think,
Yeah.
And also that I don't like flip-flopping on issues. The last person who came with replacement windows was asked to do further homework and research. And I think we should stick to a program.
But wasn't that because, Luke, maybe like, as I
In my
recall,
mind, Gordon, it was because it was a replacement window.
not because it was just the hollow core vinyl frame around it.
No.
It was, there was a
Yeah, in
replacement.
my
window.
mind, it had to do with the vinyl window that had a hollow core, that, because we have approved windows that have cladding.
And just to give, because I know,
I thought that decreasing the amount of glass was something that had been a glitch in the past also. And I'm,
Right.
again, I think that the homeowner, you know, is gonna, it's keeping the trim interior and exterior is definitely a bonus, and it probably should be a bonus in the eyes of the historic. So I'm not trying to just be a total thorn over it.
Mhm.
No,
But
we appreciate your input, and
No, be thorny. Tell
Yeah.
us.
it's allowed.
and I, you know, I don't have all the facts from renewal. I know that if you go and you tour the Anderson factories in Minnesota and you get sat down in a large conference room, I've raised questions about the performance of renewal by Anderson as well as the line produced for Home Depot, and they won't even answer your questions. They don't even want to talk about it. So I haven't been provided all the hard facts. I just know by what I've seen in the field.
and to go back to the install, I know when a lot of people hear insert, you think that you're just inserting something into something and hoping it lasts, but you know, we are using low expansion foam. You talk about, I know there's $5 ball of caulking. Anderson produces its own line of caulking. So we use that. We use Weather Shield, Ice Shield, low expansion foam. We promote 40% better energy efficiency with our windows when they're installed. So it's, you know, and again, since 1995, RBA, Renewal by Anderson, has been employing their own installers. We have a training facility in Smithfield, Rhode Island, basically a open framed house, different size openings, and they train once a month to stay on top of everything. And that is part of, you know, when I'm in a home, I'm from the Cape, so I normally know somebody who knows somebody when I'm in someone's home, but I always promote installation of a window is often more important than the actual, whether you're putting a wood window in or you want to buy the $300 window at Home Depot on the shelf. If they're installed by the same person who's not professional, there's absolutely going to be a problem. And that's why Renewal by Anderson was created by Anderson. Part of it was 83% of the warranty calls that Anderson was getting once they go out to the house were denied due to the fact that they were installed improperly. So any company can start to get a bad name if you think that their windows, and this is before Renewal by Anderson was even created. So when they had to deal with that, they said, all right, and it was the same time that after 24 years of testing that they had the Fibrex window, they said, we need a full service replacement company that comes in. We offer one window. And to go on the glass loss, you know, I am honest with, it's in my contract that when you replace windows, there will be slight glass loss. The nice thing about Fibrex, it is twice as strong as vinyl. It does not have to be nearly as thick. It's about 1/4 inch around the frame of glass loss. And when you take out storm windows that are already covering those windows, you actually, it's almost like you gain, it's essentially, you don't gain glass necessarily, but it takes out that wide storm window on the outside. So it's really, most customers say I didn't even notice the difference, but it is part of our contract that, you know, even if you go full frame back to the studs, most window builder grade new construction windows fail after 15 years, especially where we live with the elements, because they're just kind of a lot of bulk order windows, and you know, they're not probably going to go with the most expensive windows when they're building a home or and whatnot. But it is kind of on the back of my iPad, says do it once, do it right, and it's kind of what we do.
Okay, Jake, I think we need to discuss it a little bit more without your input. So I don't know, can you mute yourself for a bit or
I can
so
mute.
that we can just talk about it? because
I muted Jake.
Great. We're just going to mute you for a bit so we can discuss, but please stay with us so that you can hear the discussion. So any other questions or thoughts on the part of any of the commissioners about this?
I just have, I'm sort of in Luke's boat, and again, I don't want to completely rule out vinyl windows, but I just reviewed our guidelines and reviewed them again, and it says
It's wood.
it should be wood windows.
They should be wood windows. They can be
And
replacement windows, but wood replacement windows.
That's sort of how I feel about it, and I understand that this is a composite material, but I don't know about. I don't feel confident enough to make to say okay about this if they're not wood windows as we've outlined in our guidelines. And
the replacement windows in New York that I was referring to earlier are wood windows. I mean, they're not composite materials. They're not.
Yep.
In a historic building, I mean, it may be a steel window if it's appropriate, but it would be for the building, but it would be a wood replacement window, often Marvin wood replacement sash.
Mhm.
I do think we need to be consistent. The reason we weren't consistent last time was in the other house on Holbrook Avenue was because they'd already ordered all the windows and we're at,
Exactly.
under duress financially. And
Yeah,
they were on
and
the
there was
back,
the
but they were
delay.
just on that outbuilding that was not the actual house. So the pro of this proposal is that it's going to look good. It's going to look appropriate. And obviously the material will hopefully last longer for the homeowner, but the cons are, we need to be consistent. If we want wood windows, then that's what we say. I don't know if we can, if we can enforce that. That can be our opinion, but I don't know if the building inspector, for instance, could say, well, does that have any meat to the bone? That's what I'm saying.
I thought, does anybody have the guidelines in front of them? Because
I
I
do.
thought, what does it say exactly, Tim?
So it says windows, their size, pattern, location are one of the most significant character defining features of a historic building.
Don't bother to read the whole thing. Just what does
All
it
right.
say about the
It says
material?
replacement windows on historic structures should be made of wood and may have exterior cladding. When the applicant requests replacements, they could choose one of the following types of sash, and this will be specified in the decision. But it's pretty.
Read it one more time.
Replacement windows on historic structures should be made of wood and may have exterior cladding. When the applicant requests replacements, they can choose one of the following types of sash, and this will be specified in the decision. And that just talks about the sashes as having double pane, true divided light, energy efficient. But it repeats twice wood. In fact, number one repeats again wood, single pane, true divided light.
Right. No, we want wood windows. There's no.
Yeah, and the
I
idea
think-
of that was to have wood on the interior, and then we were allowing cladding so that people could have more weather protection.
Yep. And we actually, not to go back, but we went through this with my house, and we have Anderson 400s, and it should be known that Anderson and Anderson Renewal are not the same company. They function under the same thing, but as Jake's pointed out, it's its own division. I know that our windows were, and I don't mind saying this, I think they were close to $600, $560 each. And it's a significant cost, but I'd be curious as to know what the quote was for these replacements as they are in this. And whether or not this is creating an undue burden, or if there's not as large of a cost difference, this is something we should stick to, because I think that overall, from my understanding, and again, Luke, I would defer to you as the builder in the field, but I think that a wood house should have wood windows.
I think that there's a lot of things that can start to limit your choices. But wood windows are still readily available. Even if they have a factory applied paint or exterior coating, they're still a wood window, wood construction. I think that true divided light is going to really tie people's hands. It probably isn't even an option for true divided light, but
I think we're okay with simulated divided light. We
Yeah.
said, and that's generally accepted everywhere, but wood is really the key here, I think. And that this is not the same as like a hollow formed vinyl window like they were proposing at those two houses on Holbrook. The one we were able to disapprove because they hadn't yet purchased them. And then the second one, it's them through the building department. So we had no choice but to approve it because the windows had already been fabricated. But now these are not that. These are a composite solid material. But they're not wood, they're only partially wood. So,
Funny, this feels like the conversation that we've had before, which is AZEK versus wood trim.
yeah, it is, that's the discussion that it is. That's what it is. It's AZEK versus wood. It's the rail of the Bradford, it's just.
So I have a couple of things to add to this, just because we have talked about these issues before. This house is, it's up a driveway off of Route 6. It's not visible from the road. The owner has actually taken wonderful care of it, as lovely gardens around it. And it's, she clearly cares about her property. And I guess the other thing I wonder about is, and she's elderly, and she appears to be single. So I think finances may be an issue here. So it's too bad that she's not here with us too, so that we could hear more from her, but. And I guess the other challenging thing we have right now is that because the building inspector is under pressure to do things in a more timely fashion, after all the different building inspectors, he's already approved, he's already given this building a building permit, but it's under the condition that we approve. And this property, they had originally applied to us in late April, but they didn't send the application to us, and there was a communication mix up between us and Doreen, and we didn't get the application until a week ago, but we should have gotten it in late April if things had been working correctly with the building department. So I just, everybody should know those things.
I mean, maybe what we do is we ask it, it's only 2 weeks because we'll meet again in 2 weeks, is ask the owner to come back and do some research into a wood replacement instead of a composite replacement, and tell us what that would mean for her financially, and whether or not, I think the fact of the matter is, with the way things are going, I think AZEK and composites are just things that we're going to have to deal with.
That's
and I think that in some cases it makes a lot of sense, so that you're not replacing trim constantly that's just rotting out, particularly with climate change and increased rainfalls and humidity levels and things like that. So
I agree.
I mean, I think
go ahead.
no, I mean, so I think we could ask the owner to come back to us in 2 weeks with some other figures about what it would take to replace windows. I know this isn't going to make Jake happy with wood windows, but and then see what she says. It's not a huge delay necessarily.
I guess the trouble is, it means for her going to a whole new company and starting all over again. She did seem rather confused when I was there, frankly. I introduced myself, told her I was from the Historical Commission, told her why I was there, and she thought I was from Anderson. So I don't know whether she's going to be able to do that in 2 weeks.
Okay.
It might be possible to see where these windows are installed somewhere else before we make a final decision, and see if they're reading as if they are vinyl windows, or if they're sort of wood windows like AZEK would look like wood. Are they shiny like a vinyl window? Are they, sort of all that sort of stuff. If maybe we can see them somewhere, or use this house as a test and see how they work. I'd rather see them somewhere before we tested them out.
Okay. Well, that sounds like a reasonable solution, and then to have Anderson Renewal and hopefully the owner come back in 2 weeks when we meet again.
Would just throw in there also, if I personally would benefit from more detail instead of just an order form, like plan sections, what this actually looks like, what the materials look like, And I'm sure that they can print that out. It shouldn't be too difficult. But when we're talking about loss of light, because there's an increased size of the structure of the window, I'd be interested in seeing exactly how much that is. We talk a lot about scale in this town, and I think that scale of windows is pretty important, and how significant that is. If it's an 1/8 inch, it's not something. If it's a 1/2 inch, it's an inch all the way around the window, and
I mean,
that's noticeable.
and if we're talking about preservation, I mean, the point that Luke raises, which has to do with the interaction of materials and how they're married, and the
Yeah.
different coefficients of expansion, which happens when you have a composite material married to a wood material. When you put dissimilar materials together like that, what are you asking caulk to do? Is it doable? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So did Jake, he's no longer on the call, or is he?
No, he's here with us, but we muted him. So hold on a minute though, folks. Do we want to have a vote on this? Or do we want to wait and talk to Jake and then have a vote?
I'd like to talk to, I'd like to put it off for 2 weeks and have him come back, provide us with some local samples we could go look at. If he's worked on the Cape for 2 years and is selling this, we could go take a look at a historic building that he's installed these and just visually see what it looks like. He can provide us with the additional information Tim asked for. And I mean, it sounds like the owner probably won't be able to be part of the conversation, just if she's elderly and probably isn't technically savvy.
Yeah, when I mentioned Zoom, she didn't seem to know what I was talking about.
So maybe we can just ask.
I think it's our responsibility. I think it's, she's submitting this and this is what she is.
Right.
proposing to do. I
Yeah,
think
so we need. to
It's
figure
our
this out.
responsibility to take it, to go and let's take a look at them. Let's see what they are. Let's get more construction details. Number
Yep.
one, sections through the windows themselves. Wait, Jake, are you there, Jake?
Yep, I'm still here.
Hey,
Oh,
Jake,
okay.
how are you?
I wrote a couple things down that you guys had mentioned throughout, and my one thing is this contract was written back on March 10th, so we've the processing of everything has gone pretty quickly. And then another thing about cost, we offer financing, and that's what Kathy, I'm not going to get into details, but that was a big draw for her, the ability to make payments and pay it off at any time.
So Jake, I think we're at the place now. We're at the place now, Jake, where we need you to be able to provide to us some locations where we can see these windows installed. And we need you to provide to us a series of more detailed drawings that show section through the windows horizontally and vertically, and more information about how this window is married to the existing frame, what the caulking detail is and how that all works. And then we can see you in 2 weeks. But you have to tell us sooner than that where we can see these windows so we have an opportunity to take a look. Is that okay?
Okay. Would it be
I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
helpful
We've lost
if we
you.
met in person? I brought a window. Oh, I said, would it? Hello?
Hi.
All right.
We aren't hearing you consistently.
All right, I'm going to try and get this in. Would it be helpful if in 2 weeks we met in person and I brought a window sample with me?
No.
we
Our
aren't-
meetings are by Zoom. It would be helpful if you could give us some addresses where you've installed these windows and we
Sure.
can go take a drive by.
Particularly an historic building would be great.
Historic house, preferably like not in Sandwich or Falmouth, if you know what I mean.
How about,
Preferably
how
in
about
the
Woods
outer
Hole?
Cape.
How about Woods Hole? Yeah.
I'm on my ride back from Woods Hole right now. I pulled off on MacArthur Boulevard. Yeah, I can certainly put together a list for you. And again, I'll do whatever historic, probably somewhere on Commercial Street if that's close enough for you.
That's great.
Okay, yeah.
On
I can
Commercial Street in
absolutely-
Wellfleet? That's good.
I'm sorry?
Are you saying in Wellfleet on Commercial Street?
No, in Provincetown.
Ah,
Okay,
I see.
that's fine.
yes.
Yep, that's close enough.
So how many, you've used these windows in Provincetown for window replacements and you've gone before the historical commission there?
Correct. And the only thing that the Provincetown is the only town that doesn't want wood on the exterior. I'm sorry, that doesn't want AZAC trim. They want wood.
Right.
Our windows are sufficient and they pass them. The only thing that if we're going full frame, they would rather see wood on the exterior than AZAC, which now when I build the projects, I do it that way. The customers aren't very happy, but that's how I'll do it for the historic committee. In Woods Hole, the only thing that I sold some windows was simulated divided light, grills between the glass. They said no to that. They wanted full divided light. And then from Sandwich, even the South Dennis Historic, we've been building in these buildings or installing windows in these buildings for a long time. And I could certainly put together a list locally to you guys that you could certainly drive by and have a look.
Commercial Street in Provincetown would be good. We'd like to see those.
Yes.
And
Perfect.
also a section through it again, how it really gets connected. Pardon us for being skeptical, but we just want to cross our T's and dot our I's. I'm sure you understand.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Great, so if you can get that to us and, like soon, then we can go look at the buildings and we can check out your cross sections and more technical information, and then we'll meet again in 2 weeks on.
It's actually 3 weeks, folks, because we're meeting the 1st and 3rd of each month. So our next meeting would be July 6th.
I'll be there.
Okay. I can be back for that as well. I am leaving at the end of the month for a couple of days, but I could certainly be back for the 6th.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Jakes, thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you guys. Like I said, we'll figure something out hopefully. So I have a department out of Smithfield who handles all of the historic and permitting. Will they have your contact info as to where I can send? Or it looks like if I'm just looking here,
We
actually.
can give it to you right now. It's Wellfleet Historical Commission @gmail.com. Can you hear me?
Bear with me for one moment.
It's on the
I
agenda.
can, it's
also.
Wellfleet.
Wellfleet
Commission.
Historical
Okay,
Commission
excellent.
@gmail.com.
You'll also find it on the agenda that Merrill had sent to you earlier this week.
Yeah, okay, that's where I went to the office, so I'll be able to pull that up, and I will, I'll send you guys some residences and whatnot to go look at. And then as far as defining the install and I would probably like my install manager to be there for that, because again, I don't pretend to be the installer. I don't have a single callus on my hand. But I could certainly have my install manager show up so he could maybe help with the your questions about the caulking and whatnot.
That's great. Thank you. We'd appreciate that.
Thanks, Jake.
Thanks so much for coming before us, and we'll look forward to seeing you with the installer on July 6th.
Okay, and I'm going to reach out to Kathy. This, I think, it slipped through the cracks on her because she had no idea she was in any historical. So she probably was a little thrown off, and she is a little bit elderly, but she's sharp. But I will reach out to her and let her know that what's going on, and if she can. I highly doubt she would know how to do a Zoom, but I guess I'll try and help her out with that and figure out that part. Maybe I'll go to her house and we can do it together.
Have you ever installed these windows in Wellfleet?
Yes. Yeah, multiple locations. Yep.
It'd be great to know where those are.
I'm sorry, say that again.
It would be great to know where those locations are.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. And Kathy doesn't have to be at the meeting. She can have a representative. So, we can work with what is possible.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Jake.
Right.
Alrighty.
Thanks again.
Bye, Jake.
July
Bye.
6th, we'll same thing through Zoom.
Yes,
Yes.
July 6th, 5 p.m. And the agenda will be posted on the Town of Wellfleet website. And I can also send it to you if need be.
Yeah, I'll just let my office know that I'm going to reconvene on July 6th, and they can they'll probably reach out directly to get whatever info they need.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
I look forward
Thanks,
to it.
Jake. Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you all. Have
Bye-bye.
a good night.
Good night.
Two
You
minutes.
Oh, well.
So, I mean, I do think I appreciate Tim's looking up our guidelines. We need to be consistent. We need to, we can look at this if it looks like wood. We also have to be reasonable because we can't enforce this, you know, so, and the building inspector has already given a permit, basically.
Right. But we
So,
could, but if this is a satisfactory way to replace windows, we could amend our guidelines so that it includes composite materials such as renewal by Anderson
yeah.
installed with some kind of guideline thing. I mean, I feel
I
like.
mean, I think we're gonna get more and more of this. I mean, because everybody's trying, I mean, I would prefer to put ASAC in part portions of my house, just so I don't have to replace rotten
Yeah.
sills and things all the time, so.
I've done the same thing in my historic house, and it's partly because the wood currently is not as dense as it was originally, and it just, you know,
Mhm.
we had a porch that was made of ash, and it got completely moldy by, you know, within 8 years of installation.
Driving by the Bradford the other day, Carter and Ed both said, wow, that looks much better. Looking at that rail and
And it doesn't look bad. It's, you know, obviously,
bad.
it's not kind of the way it used to look.
So,
But
I mean,
probably
No,
with
it's
it
not.
falling apart, but, you know, it's not a, I think we're gonna have to figure out compromises that.
the thing, I can't abide by those vinyl formed things that are hollow on the inside. That's
Yes, I
what,
feel
I
the
mean, I
same
can't,
way.
that's like, I can't do it.
And we only approved that under duress, and we said that, like, we
Right.
were left with no choice, and that we would approve that outbuilding windows, but that any other windows on the historic structures would
But
have to
Luke
be
is
wood.
absolutely right. If these things are not installed properly, you're asking for major rot and destroying historic portions of a historic building. I mean,
But I think it's unfortunate that we don't know what the current conditions of every individual building is and what the installer is or isn't going to do. Because, you know, my concern is especially in Provincetown, I've gone around taking out lots of replacement windows that are just like funneling water into the wall. And now these
right.
historic homes have more severe problems than a
Right.
window that's outdated.
Yeah.
But I also realize, or I think that it's important not to tie people's hands and we don't want Wellfleet to, I don't want Wellfleet just to be, you know, the super rich are able to work on their houses or houses are go
Right.
into,
Big issue.
yeah.
And I would point out one more time that in New York City, all of these apartment buildings that have these master plans for window replacements in front of the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission all have frame to frame replacements, not brick to brick, with the goal of preserving the original trim.
Mhm.
I
And
also think-
this does do that, correct?
This does do that, yes.
Yeah.
But it's the interface between what's being put in and what exists that could cause irreparable and much more significant damage to the house, as Luke points out.
And there's lots of different window replacements. And like I said, I don't know all the ins and outs of the newest Anderson replacement windows. I do know that, like I mentioned, when you're really trying to get a lot of information out of Anderson and you're touring their factories and you have 2 days to sit in a conference room and ask every question you can conjure up, they will not touch a question about replacement windows. They don't even want to hear about it.
No.
Did you do that?
That's
So I think it'll be
concerning.
great that you'll be there the next meeting, Luke, because they'll be talking about the installation guy will be there and you can ask him some of
Right.
those questions. That would be helpful.
And I'm so glad that you're with us so that we have your input about this.
Right.
Do we need to talk about anything else tonight? This was our special meeting to review this specific topic.
I just have one question for Susan and Jim about the Form Bs that were edited for Eric Dre. And I noticed in the meeting that I wasn't able to attend because I was away that you had said something about sending them to him, but I thought that we didn't have means to pay him until after the town meeting had voted for us to have the money from the CPC. Am I right about that?
You're absolutely correct about that. Retain the forms, they're in very good order. And we believe that we will have the means to go forward to pay him for finalizing those forms once the CPC grants are approved.
Okay, and so.
I
would
should
the
know that, I should know that
them?
tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Oh, tomorrow. Okay, great.
Yes,
All
yeah.
right. And so he has the forms and he knows we intend to pay him, but we're waiting for the CPC.
That's how I left it with him. Yes.
Okay, great. And I just wanted to thank both you and Mac for all the work you've done on editing.
You're
Much
welcome. I
It's a
do much
pleasure.
editing well.
Yeah, this
The
is-
new set that came in, new Lynn Smilage ones,
yes.
I all added them to the drive and stuff, but Jim, if you can just divvy up who you want, because those did look, at a cursory look, they look like they needed some editing.
Oh, Mac and I actually divvied those, so we have
Sorry?
we've reviewed them. Mac and I have reviewed them.
Oh, great.
You're terrific. Thank you.
That work has been done.
That is so good.
So
And,
She
I'm
has submitted,
I've
She
had a
is
thank you
familiar.
note from Lynn.
she submitted her invoice and we'll be paid.
great.
Great.
And I sent the
what was the
letters to all the new homeowners too. Those have gone out. So this town is not sending me regular updates. So I reached out to them and said, hey, you know, they sent me a spreadsheet and I just sent out the rest of them. So some of them are
Oh,
delayed
great.
from January on. They haven't sent me updates.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, thank you for doing that. Because I think that really helps with people knowing who we are and that they need to come before us if they make changes. Yeah.
And I heard from the building inspector that 2 projects are not in compliance with our approvals. One of them is the Bradford, where there is no brick on the foundation wall, and yet they've asked for a certificate of occupancy. And the second is the property over on Squires that has been such an issue, where they had said that they were going to be replacing trim and fascia and various things that matched that which had existed. And he said he drove through it and he looked at it and none of it matches anything that ever existed. And so he asked me how I felt about that. And I said, I felt like we would rather not have certificates of occupancy issued for projects that are not in compliance with what we approve. And he agreed with that.
Hooray.
that will be interesting.
Oh, that man has been such a challenge.
And the Bradford has been a challenge too. And I'm glad that the porches look better and everything. And it breaks my heart when I see that raw concrete block foundation wall when I drive home at night. And
Weren't they
and
Did
there's
they
we're volunteers. We're trying to help. The snow that day, getting the sample of the brick, getting it on my porch, running over there and taking pictures of it. All of this, jumping through hoops to try to be of assistance and to try to be collaborative. It can really be frustrating. And I know we shouldn't give up, and we've got to keep doing it. And we've got to hear people out, but we have to also develop a culture in which we are respected.
Yeah.
Is it worth reaching out to them and just asking if they had updates on that?
Reaching out to who and updates on what?
Like for the Bradford.
About updates on the brick.
Sure.
Yeah, just maybe there's a delay in the thing and they're planning on doing it later.
Then they shouldn't have asked for a certificate of occupancy.
Ah, I see.
So
Well,
what was the?
And I think Jim is going to set the limit about that, right? He's going to
Yeah,
say. they
Jim
can't
said he
keep
was setting the
what they
limit.
do. So
He
we
called
don't
me and
need to
said
reach
it's
out.
not gonna.
It's really in his ballpark now.
Right, he said he was agitated when he called me about both projects, feeling as though he gets put in a bad position.
Sure.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
It's a difficult job.
It's a difficult job. It's very hard.
So one more thing I should mention is that Lynn mentioned, and probably Jim and Mac know this from going through the Hamblin Farm road buildings, that she's recommending that be an NRHP district, a national red.
Yes, yes.
It should
um,
be. It's so lovely through there, starting with Ann Fries's house going all the way down there. It really is.
So
Yeah,
all
the
that
story-
information is, I don't know, I have never applied for National Historic Registration for a building, but have you guys done that? What is the process? Because it looks like they've prepared everything. It's just a matter of submitting it.
I need to find out more about that. I haven't done that. My house, they believe, was floated over from Billingsgate, but they don't have proof of that.
Mine too.
And-
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
can you check with Lynn and just see, or someone, or we can check with someone
Yeah.
to see what the process is?
I'll communicate
There-
with Lynn about it.
In the
That'd be great.
papers we were sent, there were some things about national landmarking for the Hamlin firm itself.
Right.
But they've nothing been done about them, I think.
So there's a National Historic Land.
But there was also seemed to be a requirement that a zone be created.
Yeah, that's the thing, I think.
Okay, so yeah, I'll be in touch with her about that and what
And it would
steps.
be good
we
to
need
know,
take.
because we had talked about that for the colony, and I think it's probably too late for that now, but
Oh.
I know that giant monstrosity that's going up there.
I'm actually going to be having a cup of coffee with him in a couple of weeks with Jeff.
Oh, good. Great.
Yeah,
Um,
it would have
I
been.
mean, it looks like it's gonna be cool, but it certainly does change the scale of the building and the whole area completely.
It's very.
And after the way that family has touted the historic nature of those mid-century modern buildings.
It's certainly, well, the parents certainly did.
Yeah, well, and Jeffrey gave lip service to it, but
Eleanor and Jeffrey, and then Jeffrey got tired of living with his head on Chequesset Neck Road at night when he was sleeping, he said. And so they've done this. But anyway, I'm going to have coffee with him in a couple of weeks. And I was supposed to have this week coffee with him actually, but he has COVID. So he's still in Virginia.
We're glad you aren't having coffee with him this week then.
Yeah.
You've had
Yes,
enough.
exactly.
Dr. Fauci has COVID.
Oh, does he? Oh, my goodness. That's
That's
ironic.
It's amazing.
Everybody has COVID. And in New
Stop
York,
wearing a mask.
in New York,
Well,
I've had 3 meetings canceled because of COVID this week. It's just
Well,
everywhere.
and I read an article recently that says that there are 3 strains out there that the vaccines and the boosters don't protect us from. So I think that's probably how Fauci got it.
Ah.
And yet meanwhile, everybody's going around without masks on and flying
Well,
without
I had,
masks.
I had vaccines and boosters and I got it. So
Right.
it's, milder than it probably would have been. So I mean, I think
I've heard of 2 weddings recently. Watch out, Tim, where the bride and groom both got COVID.
Don't bring that on me right now. I don't
I'm
need that.
glad you're going to be outside, but you're going to be outside, right?
Yeah, we're going to be outside and we're masking everywhere. So if you see me, you probably won't recognize me in the next week and a half.
that's smart. That's wise. Yeah, just avoid.
saw you and yet I
Remind
read.
us what the date is.
It's next Friday, the 24th.
Congratulations. Are you going away afterwards?
I was just telling Gordon right before it started, I think we're going to try to, we don't have a solid plans, but we're probably going to try to go to somewhere north for 3 or 4 days just to get out. Maybe Montreal is top of our list. So
It's fun.
yeah.
Can you go to Montreal without? I think there are some requirements now because I have an intern here whose family is from Montreal and she had to go up there for a birthday party this past weekend.
Yeah.
And she had to get a PCR test. There were a bunch of things.
I think it-
I just
Yeah,
went
into
to
Canada,
Vancouver.
Coming back to the US is no big, just come on in,
Yeah,
bring your gun. But getting up there.
but they'll do it in the airport, which is worthwhile. So you'll have
Yeah, and there's an app called ArriveCan for going to Canada where you can file. Yeah, okay. Good.
yeah, we're it'll be nonchalant, but of course we'll do all the planning in advance. So
Guys, I'm leaving. I have dinner reservations. I'm in New
yes,
York.
I also have to go.
Let
So
you go. All right.
Great.
all right,
Thank
buddy,
you all
thank
for
you.
coming for this extra meeting and see you in
I'll be back
July.
tomorrow night. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.